I'll just do that question
Second,
again.
We can
companies, why going to the region now?
So firstly, it's because the opportunity in our region is strong. When you look at the global economy, the center of gravity in terms of economic growth is in Asia, and in particular in ASEAN, China, Northeast Asia, and also South Asia, particularly India. So it is an opportunity for our businesses to go into these markets, participate in their growth, bringing their capabilities, products and services which are in demand. The second thing is Singapore products and services have a certain standing in many of our regional markets. Singapore is regarded well for its education, for its standards in terms of food, hygiene, food quality, and many other manufacturing aspects. And therefore, when our businesses go into the region, they are seen as bringing a certain capability and certain set of standards and quality which are well received in these markets. And in particular, when you look at it in terms of the middle class of Asia, which is looking for better quality products and services, this is where I think for our businesses there's scope to participate and contribute to the growth as well. And the last point I will make is, as we have emphasized, in terms of Singapore as an economy, we have to remain open and connected. And our businesses going into the region is one way of doing it. Our people going into the region, getting exposure and participating in economic activity in the region is another way of doing it. So what MMI is doing in Vietnam, and in a broader sense, VSIP, for example, is a signature project between Vietnam and Singapore. And we have similar projects like this in many other parts of the region. And this is an example of how our businesses can go out and create interesting and significant opportunities for themselves.
Companies expanding overseas used to focus on manufacturing. So now there's the service sector that's expanding as well. So how do you see the services sector of Singapore companies going overseas? How can they thrive overseas?
So I think the services sector in particular, when you look at areas like education, healthcare, you look at consultancy and professional services, whether it is legal, financial, I think there's a range of areas where Singapore, by virtue of our level of development and our position in the region, is well positioned to provide those services. And as an international financial center and business center, we also provide connectivity to the global economy for many of the economies of our region. So for all these reasons, I think services continue to offer interesting prospects for us. And our services businesses are amongst the ones that are moving out systematically in order to seize these opportunities.
What kind of challenges do you see service sector companies will face in the region?
I think the main issue will really be first to understand the markets, their needs, and this is where I think appropriate market research has to be done, and our agencies like IE Singapore help our businesses in that regard for them to procure relevant consultancy expertise. Secondly, I think it's also ensuring that they have a good complement of people, both local talent in the relevant economies and from Singapore, working together in order to deliver a sustained quality of service to the market. Because I think the quality of the service underpins the brand, and therefore that's, I think, going to be an important element. So investing in both the local talent in terms of training and development, and at the same time also investing in Singaporeans, because we do need Singaporeans who have got the knowledge, both in terms of the domain and also in terms of the market, in order for them to be able to participate in this and bring a certain management expertise and leadership to these businesses.
What kind of assistance is the Singapore government giving to the service sector to expand further and go regional?
Is this the last question, by the way? Yeah. So otherwise it's going on. I think, as I said, I think the main thing will be IE Singapore is deeply involved through many programs in helping our SMEs in particular go into the region. These start from something very simple like market consultancy, market studies. So if a business wants to go into the region, understanding the market is important, and therefore getting a consultancy service, and there's some support from IE for that. Then there's also the need to develop the networks in the market, develop contacts, and potentially find partners. And this is where i.e. Singapore's overseas centres, the offices that are based in these markets, can be very helpful to our businesses. And finally, in some cases where there's need for capex and funding, this is where then i.e. Singapore comes in with various programs to support financial lending and other kinds of financing services for businesses going to the region. So I would say that for our businesses, once they decide, the key thing is for them to decide first that there is an opportunity that is important in the region and that they have to go out and seize it. And then they need to start investing time and effort to study the markets and work with i.e. Singapore in order to get the relevant support that will help them expand into these markets.
Thank you.
You wanted something as well?
Yes.
Yeah.